Hey there. Welcome, everyone. Thanks for being here on the eve of Lionsgate, which is tomorrow, August 8th, 888. So I wanted to follow up on, what's happening for some of you. Just that's more of a question since I don't really know what's happening for most of you. I know what's happening for some of you. But I wanted to share as well that for me, it has definitely been an interesting ride in this pocket of time. And so many things, boy, just continuing to shift and change and alter, and so much coming up to be revealed, to be healed, and and to be released and informing and allowing a new consciousness to be birthed. So, not this last Saturday, but the Saturday before, we did the Galactic New Year and Lionsgate class. Had a lovely turnout for that. And yeah, thank you everyone who it really resonated with and landed with, and you got some good momentum. So I wanted just to touch base on this, this window of time and a little bit of what we covered in that class so that within this next 24 hours, as we land into Lionsgate officially, and as we move through the rest of the portal, which will take us to the 12th, but then remembering that really we're just upticking energetically as we continue to move through this 8 year and beyond. But we're just going to focus on this year right now and what's here. So a couple of the points that we talked about in the class. I'm a little scattered, but I definitely wanted to show up and just kind of like give a little overview and touch base about how to move through some of this. So forgive me if I'm a little here and there and everywhere. So in the class, we covered the fact that most of us know is that we're always creating, right? We're always creating with our thoughts, with our emotions, with our actions, with our choices. All of those things create the reality that we experience. And ideally, what we want to do is be creating consciously, and we want to be aligning our thoughts, our emotions, our choices, our behaviors, and how they move through us into the world so that everybody's on the same page. So, years ago when I used to teach the Yoga Nidra classes, one of the ways in which we talked about intention is that imagine a boat, a canoe, and you've got, 3 rowers on each side. And if all of those rowers don't know where they're going and aren't on the same page of how they want to get there, how they feel about getting there, what choices and when they're going to make the choices to get there, it's chaos, right? Because every rower is going in a different direction. One rower might be, oh no, I'm afraid to go there. Another rower might say, yeah, but you have to go there. Another rower may just sort of be indifferent and go along for the ride, not have a vote whatsoever. Somebody else might be really excited to get there. So that's not harmonious. And what happens is that rowboat doesn't really make a lot of progress, right? Doesn't really get where it's going fast. It may not actually get to its destination, and it may only get to the destination that the strongest, the strongest rower has. That is when we're working unconsciously or allowing the subconscious to guide us rather than making clear. Any of the rowers that are not on the same page, shining the light on them and doing what we need to get everybody in alignment, what I call divine aligning. So we didn't cover that in the class, but that's just the example that we're always creating our lives. And what really creates the bulk of our life, depending on where you're at in your karmic journey, if you have not, or if you just stepped onto your awakening path, you still may have a lot of that subconscious baggage, right? That stuff that we're carrying behind us that we may not have unpacked yet. If we haven't unpacked it, it's carrying extra weight, and it might be filled with old beliefs, old thought forms, emotional baggage, all of that, that if it's not resolved, it slows down our journey, right? So part of the journey is we're unpacking our bags as we go. And if you're already a good way into your journey, you've probably done a lot of that unpacking. You're really clear. What's my core stories? What are my core woundings, right? What is my shadow? How does my shadow operate in the world? How does my shadow, which is just my fears, my pains, my grief, how does that unresolved shadow then get in the way of where I'm trying to go? Or where is it attached to what's been because it doesn't know how to move forward? So that's that next phase and stage. And further along, we're even operating in more harmony, right? We're able to really know that we love ourselves. We're going to honor our choices. We're going to honor what we need. We're going to listen. We're going to make choices that reflect self-love and that also reflect love and honor and appreciation and care for others, whether we're in their life or whether we're moving out of their lives or situations or jobs or, people, places, things, all of that. There's still a level of harmony. And we're recognizing that the more that I make choices that uplift me and serve me, the better my life becomes. And I'm evolving as that is happening, right? I have to shift my consciousness every time I make a deep transformation. So now where we're at, and we've been able to kind of, set out, do those things that, create a business, maybe create a new relationship, decide I'm going to move here, I'm going to do this. So a lot of this has still been very much from the I, from the me. I am the doer, right? I am doing this. From that identified personhood in the 3D construct that's physicalized, setting goals, right? Those goals are in the 3D construct. Here's my steps. It's linear, it's logical, it's rational. Now, what we're heading into as the frequency on the planet rises, as our consciousness rises, and as our hearts expand, and as we continue to literally elevate every aspect of our being, which means we're increasing, expanding, raising consciousness. It doesn't matter what terms or lingo that we use. This is what's happening, right? We are becoming more whole, more grounded, more connected to the multidimensional realities, more connected to our own soul presence, more connected to the divine, God, universe, source, whatever that is. And we are accessing higher levels of love, different than personal love, higher levels of love are unconditional, or they're like a divine neutrality. We're not judging, we're not coming into either or as much. And we've healed a lot of our fears, our abandonment, our areas of loss, those deep areas of confusion, right? But so many of these have so many layers, and that's part of what I want to talk about today. So in the class, we talked about as we raise our frequency, as we progress along this journey, we are creating from the inside out. In other words, we are creating from the frequency that we cultivate from within first. And then we hold that frequency. It's already real, right? It's already real inside our body, inside our consciousness. So it can be something as simple as, right, a few years ago, I don't remember exactly when it was, I, my nervous system was really starting to tap me and saying, okay, like we're really exhausted. It's bothering me. Something's got to give here. And so I didn't decide, right? I heard from inside, like, oh, what do I really need on my heart soul level? And it's like, I just want to be retired. I want to feel like I am retired. What does that feel like for me? Right? So I started to feel the sensations of what that felt like. And then I started to release into those sensations and land in those places of more calmness, less doing, less pressure on myself, more peace. And then I kept hanging out in that energy. And as I've mentioned so many times, the way that I tend to work with frequency when I'm in a shifting mode, in an intentional mode, is I bring in music. Because I love music, and music speaks to me deeply, always has. So I find the music that feels like I want to be feeling inside, and then I immerse myself in that music or in certain lyrics, that type of thing, right? Everybody's going to find their own magical way of operating, but if that suits you, then you are more than welcome to play with that. So I was all about Van Morrison and the mellow band Van Morrison. So that resonance started resonating into my cells and affirming and confirming my reality. And so even though I was still working, I was living from this internal experience of feeling like I was retired, or my version of retirement at that time. And I evened out, I mellowed, right? And I got to learn new ways about how I really needed to be operating, because I was guided there from within. So that's this example of operating and cultivating what we want to be experiencing within. And then the universe or life will match that frequency, will match that signature, and will bring to us people, places, things, situations that support that resonance. Since everything is energy, we're just moving more and more into understanding how to master our energetics, not from the ego, not from the personhood, but from this deeper soul connected awareness and presence that is guided by the divine. So the other point that we talked a lot about during the class had to do with during this time, choice by choice by choice by choice. creating, visioning, feeling from within. What is it that this next chapter holds in store for me, right? What does it look like? What does it feel like inside of me? And then beginning to make the choices as if you're already living at that timeline. Okay, so I'm going to do something on timelines, but this is where a timeline is a life stream, how you're living, that is based on your consciousness, your experience of the world around you, and the choices that you're making or the frequencies that you're holding in your body. So, right, so all right, well, what is it that I'm really creating, co-creating with the divine, not from ego, not from goals, not from force, not from push, but from inner listening, inner honoring of self-love, and then operating in a way that allows us to stay in harmony and balance, making the choices day to day to maintain that signature and frequency. So, we did exercises and we went more in depth with everybody exploring what this was for them. And then we start activating it, right? Because during this portal, we have like this amazing opportunity to really up level. And I want to be saying this. It's not because something is wrong or bad or we're broken. It's not because of that. It's simply because as we evolve, we are continuously being called by love, by life, to remember the higher states of being and consciousness that we are. Right? We're even getting past that point of healing. If you've already been on this trajectory, we aren't talking about healing as much. If you're just starting out, then yeah, that's a big piece of it. But now it's just this remembrance as we get further along this frequency bandwidth and trajectory. So I want to keep on track here, whatever that track may be. So what happens, right? What are some of the things that start to happen when we start co-creating, when we start redefining and refining our life consciously? We create the resonance that we want inside. And let's just say, mine usually has to do with like, higher love or divine love. Because I live pretty much in love with my life. That's been that's been the frequency I've been working and cultivating for a couple years. I live in love with life. And so I focus on the things in my life that I'm in love with, and I deal with the things that rise up from there, that detract from that, right? That kind of pull me down, so to speak, into a lower frequency. So this is part of the process. There's always going to be those things. As we start to recalibrate, there are going to be those things that we didn't see, or we have to go around and revisit the next layer of that spiral, right? This is the feminine path. Evolution is a feminine path and trajectory. It's circular, it's spiraling, it's not straightforward. We don't decide, oh, I'm enlightened. That's not how it works. Might work for a couple, for a few, but that's not how the majority of us are traveling. So I'm just going to give a little bit of my examples for this because it's easier for me to talk in first person than generalities. So what I can say is that leading into the Galactic New Year, I had a couple very specific situations that I was revisiting. So this is like the third visitation of these situations and circumstances. And and it was a very traumatic, right? It felt as jarring as it did for the first two of these, even though I knew what to expect now because I'd already, felt this sort of trauma in my system. And so I kind of knew how to navigate it, but it still really, really activated all of me in a way that felt very out of control. High levels of anxiety, that root chakra, safety and security was really feeling threatened. I wasn't feeling as grounded. I wasn't feeling as centered. I was having a hard time accessing faith and trust. I was having a hard time, like, entering into the kind of higher dimensional expansive states of love and higher love, and and all of that yumminess. Instead, I was like down in the trenches, right? Trying to just keep working through whatever my fears were inside, right? What are my fears, right? So I was butting up against some deep kind of primal fear, not just, regular kind of 3D fear that, I could take an action maybe and it all just like goes boom. No, this was like deeper primal fear coming up to the surface. And this is why I'm going to do something on timelines, because I feel like this is super important to address more at length, but I'm going to skip over the details right now. So I got through that one, right? And started then to, claim my energy back because it got really scattered, it got distorted. All of that stuff happens. Pulled it back, got it back. Okay, I'm safe. I have faith and trust again. I can, surrender everything back over to the divine, get back on track. Oh, thank you. So then, right, I'm moving forward, right, preparing for Lionsgate, just like doing my rituals, doing my practice, really honing my frequency, all of this, recognizing what are the things that really get in the way of my living my life in this next octave that is calling me. So identifying those, shifting things up, making changes, habits that are really hard to break, just breaking them, staying focused on where I want to be because I know what it feels like in here. And then, oh my goodness, another round of these circumstances hit and situations. So that was just within the last 24 hours. So um, what was so fascinating and so key was that as we co-create, as we move through our stages and phases, as we hit higher timelines where life is really pretty darn good and fabulous, and we have freedom, we have joy, right? We have trust, all of those things. In our human adventure, there are still things that are going to rise up because now we've created the conditions by moving our frequency up a little bit more, right? And so stuff that is going to get kicked up from that is going to come up And part of our job is to learn mastery over our reactivity. And that means really honing what the truth is, right? So I've had 3 rounds. This is my 4th round of this in, probably about a decade, maybe probably a little bit over a decade, right? So I know what it's about. I know the storylines, but the first 3 times I hadn't gotten to a point in my journey where my frequency now is able to sustain a risen, what's the word? A risen expression, a higher expression, while simultaneously going through the density. Now, I'm not going to say that, that I have completely mastered this, but what I can say is it was really eye-opening by deeply understanding the background, my baggage, past life connections to this as well, and being able to identify my fears and being able to sit with my fear and question it. This was key. Sit with the fear and question the fear. And as anybody knows, that can be a really, really just almost impossible thing to do. But that's part of the shadow work that we learn in the early days, right? If you've worked with me, you understand we do shadow work and we learn to face, to sit, to acknowledge, to feel these parts of us that feel almost so overwhelming that we don't even, we don't feel like we can face them. But every time we face them, we're strengthening our own resilience and our own courage. But even beyond that, we're strengthening our connection to truth. Because 9 times out of 10, I'm going to say 9.5 times out of 10, because, absolutes, I don't know about absolutes, but 9.5 times out of 10, I'm going to say, when we know how to do this practice, the truth that emerges is not nearly as big as what the fear of the fear is, what the outcome is, what we think is the reality. I haven't hit that yet. I haven't worked with anybody who's had that happen yet. Doesn't mean it doesn't exist, but I'm saying from personal experience, this is how I've seen it. So once again, what I've learned, even since, a few weeks ago, is that, probably because they were so close together, is that I was able to move into love, move into the faith and trust in life, knowing that life loves me. And this is part of life loving me, revealing to me this deep place, this deep fear. Why would I want to keep carrying this fear around? Just because we're not facing it, you see what I'm saying? Or we're not aware of it, doesn't mean it's not there. And this journey is going to bring everything up to the surface to be addressed, to be acknowledged, and to be transmuted through truth, through love, through faith, through surrender. So what I've recognized, and I'm still kind of in this process a little bit, is that for the first time I've been able to really anchor this particular go round, this particular situation and hold it, question it, see what's actually real, see what's false, and allow each fear to rise up to the surface and reveal itself. It doesn't always feel good, right? Does my stomach feel icky? Do I go through, like my body getting tense or my anxiety rising? Yes, it does. But then I ground it back down into the earth because I work with the allies, with specific allies that are here to support me. One of them is this oak tree, right? One of them is the earth and the Christed and the crystalline core and the crystalline grids of the earth, right? So I anchor into those as my support group. They're my support group, my guides, my highest self, all of that, right? Even if I can't always feel them because I'm contracted and I'm a little, monkey mind and, paranoid, whatever those things are, I know that they're there. And if I can get grounded, I can hear, sense, and feel more clearly. And a lot of this has to do with our nervous system. So anyway, I'm not going to like belabor this, but the point is that I've been so grateful and proud of myself over the last 24 hours of how I am now really overcoming and transmuting this very, very, um, continued experience that wants to keep tapping on my door until I learn it, until I master it, until I heal it, till I transmute it, until I understand that it is sacred. That was like this turning point yesterday. It's like, this is a sacred event. This is a sacred event because it is causing me to get really present. It is demanding that I listen, that I feel, and that I address appropriately, and that I move and become free of it. So I really feel like I'm on this precipice of a newfound freedom. This had to come up during this portal for some reasons that I'm kind of aware of. Other reasons I'm not really sure why, but I'm just like, I don't always know what's best, right? Right? Life, the divine, like the universe knows, right? That wisdom knows. My soul knows. My highest self knows. So I don't know all of the reasons, but I know some of them. And I'm understanding that any deep-seated or rooted fears that are in our background, right? They're back in our closet. Any of them, whether they make sense or not, they will all interfere with us being able to anchor in our true signature blueprint. Okay? So just hear that again. Any fears, unresolved grief, anger, resentment, loss, abandonment, anything. We might have done so much healing. And yet, if it's sitting back here, we're only going to be able to vibrate at a certain rate. We're only going to be able to reach a certain octave. So when I went into the Lionsgate this year, it was basically whole new life. So I knew that that's what I was saying, and I understand what that whole new life feels like. I mostly have it, but there are these few things. And you know, even though I've done this so many times, it's like, oh my gosh, oh, these things are like being taken away. Oh no, right? Because they're being taken away because it's going to stir up whatever I need to have transmuted to get to this next stage. And clearly, it also meant that I was going to need to revisit this traumatic wheel, but now it's not so traumatic. I don't want it. I want it to be done. It doesn't feel good, but the trauma is no longer, as of today anyway, and as of the direction where we're going, my, you know, I have faith and trust in, it's not traumatic like it was a decade ago. And then the next circle around this, and then the last one. And now it's like, whoom, I got this. And by having it, I'm able to also stand my ground really clear and be like, no, not playing this game anymore. So I'm reclaiming a lot of power that I, lost early on around this whole thing. So now I'm reclaiming it. Now I'm getting more clarity. Now I'm taking, the actions necessary. I'm doing, deeper and higher elemental and energy work to support this process. And I'm really, really grounding in the wisdom from the higher realms and the higher awareness to support me and to just listen to their guidance, right? And know that this is all perfect. It is a sacred event. And it becomes sacred as soon as we make it conscious. As soon as we consciously engage and come into relational intimacy with everything. So, so that's kind of my my little story about this. So what I would love is if you're able to take any piece of this and apply it to anything that might be going on in your life right now. And again, we've got this window. So don't be surprised if, for those of you who have been who was in the class, don't be surprised if, you've got your frequency, you're working it and everything's opening up. And then it feels like you get thwarted. You're not getting thwarted. Everything comes in and goes out in order to support the next evolution, the next expression of you, the next level of your wholeness, the next level of your frequency, the next level of your ability to have faith and trust and enter into love and beauty and joy and freedom. If there are any things that you've got sitting back here, right, that are back there, and you want to consciously work with, by all means, reach out so that you can expedite these patterns, right? We don't have to sit and hide from them or just wait. We're in a very proactive time, and we're in Mercury retrograde, right? So this all was actually perfect for that as well. So, right, because Mercury retrograde, we're going to keep revisiting whatever we haven't resolved, whatever we're not letting go of, whatever we need a shift in consciousness about, whatever we need to heal, whatever we need to make new choices, different choices. So we're in retrograde along with the Lion's Gate, and it's just a really powerful time to do conscious work, right? To be proactive in our journey, because that's really where we're at right now, is we are stepping into proactivity while we're also surrendering at the same time. So I hope that's helpful. life is gonna show you, right? It's gonna show you. Be mindful of what it's being revealed, because what's revealing is what you're creating, consciously or unconsciously, meaning sitting back in that background, and somehow that frequency that you're not even recognizing is drawing something to you that seems like, what the heck? Where did that come from? Why is this happening to me? Because you got something you're carrying in your backpack. All right, I think that's it. So, blessings as you continue to move through the 8-8, your journey, whatever that looks like for you. And I hope this helps in your own deeper awareness of how to, a way to come into your own healing. So you can find me at lotuslindley.net, Art of Sacred Embodiment, and I'll see you again with love.